Right, so in Saskia, I want to take out this Avengers Zendikar. Mainly I just don't want to track the tokens that would go in the plants. It creates a lot of problems with placement, space, memory. Because I don't have plant cards, I would make plant tokens. I use these beads in different shapes, buttons in different shapes to represent the tokens, to be the tokens. So putting a plus and plus encounter on an oddly shaped bead doesn't really work. Plus it costs 7. It's only good if I have 5 or more lands, unless something else is in play. So for that reason, I'm planning to take it out. And I was thinking, what about Compost? So Compost, the advantage is it's cheap to cast, 1 in a green. The disadvantage, if none of my opponents are playing black, really doesn't do anything. Doesn't do anything at all. Just sits there and looks cool. So, but if they are playing black, there's a potential for me drawing a lot of cards. Whenever a black card is put into an opponent's graveyard, you may draw a card. So, it doesn't care where the cards go into the graveyard from. If it's a sorcery, an instant, a dead creature, if it's just milled, it doesn't care. And it's for each black card that would go to the graveyard. So, Compost is definitely a strong candidate for the card draw. Then I was thinking for something more reliable for card draw. So Compost would get me more cards, potentially, depending on what my opponents are playing. Mengar the Diplomat here, so 3 and a white for 2/4 legendary human cleric with lifelink. So if an opponent attacks me with 2 or more creatures, then I can draw a card. So it would trigger once per turn. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. So it would trigger once per turn if they start casting 2 spells a turn. Reliable, because at some point people are going to be casting 2 spells a turn. The attacking me thing, well, if I'm enough of a threat, yeah, that's pretty reliable. But I'm just not sure if he fits the rest of the deck. And then we have False Prophet. This is the one I'm really thinking about. 2 white for a 2/2 human cleric. He's been errated. When he goes to graveyard from play, remove all creatures in the game. Exile when he goes to the graveyard. So he doesn't get exiled himself, so I can resurrect him and bring him back. I don't have a lot of resurrection in Saskia. But I do have Ultra Strongholds, so I can get him back. Now, what would he give me, and how would he actually work? Why would I want to exile my creatures? Well, let's take a look at some of the options, some of the potential lines of play that I would have. So, get him in play, and I can use, say, Goblin Bombardment. Man, that glare is terrible. That's a bit better. So he comes down, he's in play. And somebody is going to respond to his effect. How could they respond? So he's in play. I've got Goblin Bombardment. I'm trying to think through the potential downsides, the potential ways this can bite me in the ass. So I can put the bombardment on the stack, bombard him, throw him at somebody. If they swords him, I can just put it on the stack again. So there's no way they can get rid of him that way. As far as saving my creatures, maybe I should put in Form of Resurrection, because the options I have are, so his trigger's on the stack. In response to his trigger, all my non-token creatures, even the tokens, I mean, they're going to get exiled, so why not? I start firing them at people. And they would go to the graveyard. So I could get them back somehow. I don't have a lot of somehows in this deck. But perhaps that's another consideration I should make. He won't trigger Pitiless Plunderer because the creature's Then there's also Ashen's Altar. So in response to the trigger, I could sacrifice all my creatures for mana, and then everybody else's creatures are exiled. What else is there that would do this sort of thing? Or I can Clever Concealment. So his trigger goes on the stack. I phase all my creatures out. So I have a board state when it resolves after all is said and done. Nobody else does. This won't work because it makes it indestructible. He's just exiling everything. So if I put him in, then it might be wise to take something else out. And because I'm talking about it so much, obviously I'm really leaning towards False Prophet as the replacement for Avengers Zendikar. But then I would want to take something out to put in a Teferi's protection, so I've got two ways of protecting my board. Or maybe I would want more Resurrection. I could take him out. He's fun, but he just doesn't seem to do. I will leave it in here and play it a bit more just to make sure. But it's really swingy. 6 for a 5/5 menace. Whenever creature attacks when your opponent's, that player loses 1 life. So, unless my opponents are attacking often, even with a lot of creatures, he really doesn't do anything outside of my turn. What else could I take out? I have to give some thought. But those are the 3 options that I'm really considering for the Avengers Zendikar. Which one would you choose?